Why do I do this to myself? Back in July, I posted a response video to another video entitled, Dear Mr. Atheist, please allow me to destroy evolution in 3 minutes. In this video, Joshua Feuerstein attempts to debunk over a century of research in only 3 minutes, using his scientific knowledge, or lack thereof. His ultimate goal with the video was to prove that it takes way more faith to believe in evolution than it does to believe that a wish-granting landlord sneezed a dirt man into existence. In case you can't tell, I don't really agree with him. So what brings me here today? In a desperate attempt to capitalize on the small amount of popularity he received from the original video, Josh Feuerstein inexplicably tries to debunk evolution again with misunderstood science. Again. Now, before we begin, I want to reinforce a point that I thought I made with the last video. I am not an atheist. At one point in my life, I did identify as an atheist, but that was a darker time. Presently, I describe myself as agnostic. But what does it mean to be agnostic? Well, I'm glad you asked, voiceover. Being agnostic, when applied to the subject of religion, means that you can't know with 100% certainty that God exists. It's impossible to know this for a fact. Sure, you can believe that God exists, but you can't know it. Well, what about that 4-year-old boy from Nebraska who saw heaven during his surgery? Don't get me started. I personally don't believe that God exists. I live in a world of logic and reason that doesn't allow for such things. But I'm not so arrogant as to say that I know God doesn't exist. That sounds kinda like a cop-out. Shut up. But you're adding me into the video. Seriously, shut up, voiceover. Then stop recording the voiceover. I'm getting real tired of your shit, voiceover. This argument is stupid. It's going absolutely nowhere. All you have to do is stop. This is round 2, Mr. Feuerstein.
Guys, it's Josh Feuerstein here, so let's not only destroy and debunk evolution, but I want to show you that it actually takes more faith to believe in evolution than it does to actually believe in God.
I'm already getting a headache.
You see, evolution tells us that we're the product of the evolving of a protein molecule that happened by accident or by simple chance. Yet even science would say that that chance is 1 in the 10 to the 243rd power. That's 10 with 243 zeros after it. Now that's a number that we can't even begin to comprehend.
10 octogentillion. Also, the Bartel-Zostack experiment proves this number to be inaccurate. Go ahead, look it up.
That's like if everybody in the world played the lottery, that's your chances of hitting the lottery 1 trillion times in a row.
That's not right.
How ridiculous of a number is that?
Not as ridiculous as you think it is. First of all, he again is using a scientific tool to disprove science, and he's not even using it right. The number of people playing only increases the chance that multiple tickets will hit every winning number. Furthermore, the chances of you winning the lottery remain the same no matter how many times you've won. This is because every drawing is considered to be its own event. The results of previous drawings have no bearing on the odds at all. Moving on.
And if even we were able to believe that somehow life sprang out of that accident, well, there's the law of cause and effect, which means that the universe that we live in is an effect, but out of what cause?
Our whole universe was in a hot, dense state that nearly 14 billion years ago expansion started.
If somehow that protein molecule was able to evolve and evolution was able to somehow come into being, that means that now that monkey would become man. But let me just ask you this. If evolution is an ongoing process, why do we not see any half-human, half-apes today? Wouldn't monkeys still be evolving into man, and wouldn't we see those around us that hadn't quite caught up to us yet?
Because that's not how evolution works, asshole. First of all, we did not evolve from apes. Simple as that. We share a common ancestor, and there is a difference. Evolution is not a ladder. Evolution is dictated by the natural habitat of those involved in the evolution. Because they lived in an area where food and shelter was readily available, apes didn't really evolve much more. On the flip side, our ancestors lived in an area where their survival depended on creating tools and building shelters, among other things. When only those who learned those skills survived, they were the only ones available for mating. Therefore, that led to offspring that was better equipped to survive in that environment. Rinse and repeat.
Evolution cannot, even if it thinks it can somehow explain life, it cannot explain thought. It cannot explain feelings. It cannot explain emotion, and it cannot explain morality.
Actually, evolution does explain that. All these are evolutionary traits that help to ensure our survival. As an example, we'll go with disgust. Our bodies react with disgust at items like rotting foods that could hurt us. Even the facial expression attached to disgust helps to limit the amount of possibly toxic air or particles that we intake.
No matter where in the world you grow up, pretty much everybody knows that there's a difference between right and wrong. To kill a human or to do harm against somebody else, it makes us feel bad inside. Science didn't give that to us. Evolution didn't give that to us. It can't explain that.
Again, I say that the feelings of how wrong it is to kill our fellow man is explained by evolution. The natural instinct of animals, including and especially humans, is to survive. When we take a human life, it ultimately weakens the species and lowers our chances of survival, minimally. We have conquered the food chain and dominated nature, which isn't really good in hindsight. This is all possible because there are strength in numbers, and our knowledge of this is in our nature.
The Bible says that God writes those things, those precepts upon our heart.
Yeah, God is the author of our souls. We get it. Move on.
I would argue today that the reason and the problem with humanity today, or the reason that there's so much suicide and depression and racism and all of these things where we don't value each other, is because people have begun over the last 30, 40, 50 years to begin to adopt this evolutionary theory as somehow it's fact.
Humans strive for perfection and will accept nothing less. This makes our expectations unreasonably high, and this leads to disappointment and ultimately the bitter pang of defeat. Let's add that depression is overly diagnosed, and the antidepressants that doctors prescribe have some oddly counterproductive side effects. This makes something that is a genuine issue and unnecessarily exasperates it.
So people begin to believe that they're a product of an accident and not a product of a creator. Therefore, their life has no meaning, it has no value. It was simply an accident.
Okay, I get that your religion says that God gives us all purpose, but how does it affect people who actually understand evolution? Yes, understand, not believe. We know that we are part of something truly magnificent. We are the answer to how life exists. We are proof of evolution. Do you realize how incredible that is? With the use of science and absolutely no fairy tales, we are the evidence of how nature works.
Maybe this whole evolutionary concept...
Seriously? Again with this? It's a scientific theory. Okay, often there is some confusion with the use of the word theory here. For us in the general public, the word theory means a system of ideas that's meant to explain something. As far as the scientific definition of the word theory, in the simplest of terms, it's a tested and confirmed explanation as to how nature works. Another popular argument that I've heard is that it doesn't make any sense to use the same word but with a different meaning. And I'm not going to lie here and listen to these lies. On a side note, I don't think it's really fair that I didn't get to go to the fair this year. But I guess it's what happens when you trip into a hood on your trip to the hood. Was that enough? Was 4 enough? Okay, moving on.
Maybe this whole evolutionary concept that has become popularized over the last few decades
Or a century and a half.
is the reason that there's suicide, depression, racism, and all of the things wrong in this world.
No. Facts and science are not the reason for everything wrong in this world.
Maybe it's time for you to understand that you were created by a God that loves you, that has a purpose and a future and a destiny for you.
I think it's time that you stop passing off your religion as fact. Science has proven that evolution occurred. This explains how life came to be. The real problem is that creationists argue against evolution because they feel it's a danger to their beliefs and is a threat to the moral fabric of this country. My problem with these arguments is that they spread lies and ignorance. Josh Feuerstein seems to do absolutely no research or just enough to fit his warped theories. He's an attention whore who remains ignorant by choice. His only goal is views and followers.
But isn't that exactly what you're looking for?
Well, of course I want views, obviously. But my intention with these videos is to spread knowledge.
But he believes his arguments to be truths.
He does very little research, if any at all. Wait. Didn't I snap you off?
Shit.
That's what I thought. Get out of here and stop ruining my continuity.
Then again, I say, all you have to do is stop recording and editing me in post. Seriously, this is one of the most
Good night, folks. I'll see you in the future.
Okay, this is a song from the perspective of God. The books you think I wrote are way too thick. Who needs 1,000 metaphors to figure out you shouldn't be a dick?